Hi, my name is Obo Joseph, and this is Nigeria. It's a program that highlights issues that Nigerians battle with on a daily. And through this program, we hope to change the narrative of what people perceive Nigeria to be. There's so much about Nigeria, and I'm sure that as we go on in the program, you would hear our thoughts, and we would love to hear your thoughts as well.
Hi, I'm OJ. It's glad to be on this program. I love Nigeria, and Nigeria is my country. So we are here to discuss Nigeria and also make Nigeria work.
Yeah, it's really amazing how Nigeria has gone through a lot of battery. I don't want to use the word assault. Nigeria is almost under assault.
Yeah.
The things that we used to know before now of what Nigeria was, where you can travel the length and breadth of this country without having any issues, without being scared. But right now there are so many limitations, restrictions. I don't know if there are certain restrictions that you feel comfortable talking about in terms of what Nigeria is presently compared to the stories that we heard in the past.
Okay, compared to the stories we've heard in the past. Firstly, there's one story I've heard in the past that's always been hurtful. Our parents would tell us that when they were in school, they used to have ice cream, they used to have chicken. I'm like, wow. Is it the same Nigeria we are? Like, what happened between their time and this time? So there's a lot of mismanagement and all of that. And if we don't get to stop this culture now, what are we going to tell our children? Because we didn't have ice cream to take, neither did we have chicken to take. So are we going to tell our children that we're paying some ridiculous sum of amounts of, I don't even know what's, Nigeria has to get it right. That's the major thing.
Yeah, but if you're talking about ice cream, I can almost say that this whole social program of this present administration, where they feed children in schools, children eat eggs, it appears to be a program that is widespread.
Wow. But I bet you if we take a census of those people that have tasted I saw pictures of what they gave those children to eat. Even the federal government, even the least person in the federal government won't give his child that thing to eat.
Yeah, but if children are not having the real balanced diet, but at least they're having a diet of some kind, and we have that dietary formulation en masse, I actually don't have all the details as to how many schools are beneficiaries of that program. I don't even know if that program is still running. But I think that is a good initiative, even though I feel we can actually be doing much more, feeding people, feeding kids, what's happening to improving the lives or the livelihood of parents so that parents can actually take up those responsibilities themselves in that case.
Yeah.
But of course, the poor would always be amongst us.
Now, you just hit the point on the head. Our problem boils down to poverty. Because if a child goes home and he knows that he has good food to eat, there's some kind of food you bring to, whether mass feeding or anything, and you give to the child, the kids will be the ones to tell you, "Ma, we can't eat this because we don't even eat this at home. What did you bring for us?"
Wow.
So you can't be giving other people's children what you won't give your own child. It's poverty. Nigerians, the population of poor people in Nigeria is humongous. I'm sure that we don't even have a good statistics of. No wonder you hear that Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world.
Wow.
Even though Nigeria has tried to debunk it, but we are yet to see proof of that debunk.
That means the poverty is actually real. But basically, what are some of the quick steps that you feel the government can adopt? Personally, I don't really believe in that whole food feeding program.
Yeah.
I feel it's just a means by which through which maybe those that have access to government, maybe they make some quality millions or hundreds of millions from that program. They would necessarily not deliver the quality, but they would still rape the program and rape the Nigerian people as they've always done. So how do you think we can actually deal with this issue of poverty, especially bearing in mind that it's almost poverty across the entire country?
In my own view, I think when there is the right environment for people to have jobs, and when I say right environment, what I mean is there's power, there's infrastructures. There are major infrastructures as a country you would need for your citizens to thrive. You just need to produce, you just need to provide those basic, in fact, you don't need to give them any other thing. Just provide them
Access to
power,
security,
good roads. They are not even asking for much. They don't even need much.
Internet is a luxury.
Internet is a luxury.
Once they have everything,
I don't say people will not complain. By the time you provide all of that, people will be the ones to create jobs for themselves. They won't be waiting for the federal government to say, okay, we are doing mass feeding, come and eat, or we are doing mass feeding, come and cook. You'll be surprised the kind of jobs Nigerians are smart people. Nigerians are very, very industrious people. They just need the right things in place for them to thrive.
It can really be sad sometimes, when you think about the fact that we've lost out on so much that this country could have actually become. If we look at agriculture now, for example, some states that were predominantly known for agriculture and all of that, the security crisis came on board. People can no longer go to their farms, or where people go to their farms, they now have to pay rent to some external forces for them to still be able to carry out their agricultural produce or their agricultural business or services and all that. And even where you won't find agro-related products, access to markets, issues of processing, we are still, those things we read in agriculture. We are still dealing with those same issues even now. So it's almost looking as though we are necessarily not development minded. And I say this also because I've come to realize that much of the time we focus on, what are the development partners bringing to the table? We ask those questions. You said United Nations, Korea Development Agency, JICA, all these guys that are in Nigeria to also support what the government is doing on a bilateral level. We cannot now substitute what our government should be doing for us and wait for external people to come and solve our problem. Just take a look at INEC, for example. INEC had access to a lot of funding from external bodies, and at the end of the day, it's almost appearing like we didn't necessarily get the presidential elections right. I cannot say that for sure because even though the evidence is there, but the case is in court and people have said other people should go to court. I believe they are in court, and I'm really anticipating what the judiciary would actually make of all of this. So just so that you can also throw some light on that as well.
This, when you talked about the agriculture, it now made me remember how selfish we can be to ourselves. Because when you think of the Northeast, most especially, and those regions of the country where there's always restiveness, there's always trouble and all of that, you now trace it down to our politicians, the selfish politicians who have these guys as their boys for political purposes. At first, I'm not sure they planned for what came afterwards. They had these guys for their political boys. Hey, you run this one, run this one. At the point where you're now not winning the elections, those guys now degenerate to something else.
Something entirely
They now take arms against the government of the day. And that is very, very unfortunate. So because you are not in government, the other person in government should not be able to do anything.
Especially when people now see insecurity as a commercial enterprise.
Very true.
The commercialization of Nigeria's insecurity crisis. It's really sad. But is there any glimmer of hope? Like, do you feel hopeful for this country? Like, sincerely, from what we are finding on ground, can somebody really be hopeful? Because for me personally, I know a couple of friends who were just waiting for the presidential election to happen to be able to make their decision whether they want to leave this country or not. And amazingly, many people are like, let me try somewhere else out. So what's really hopeful about Nigeria presently? Are there any hope factors at all?
The first hope I have about Nigeria is that, there's nowhere like home. Wherever you go, if you go to the best of places in this world, you won't get the same treatment you get as a Nigerian in Nigeria. That apart, Nigeria is evolving. No matter how bad we are getting it now, imagine this election now. If it was the former Nigeria, by now Nigeria would have been boiling.
Yeah, I think so.
Places in Nigeria,
think so.
you wouldn't have been able to travel.
I think so.
So at least we can pat ourselves on the back for this purpose alone. The peace we enjoy after the presidential election is a good one.
It's actually a good one.
So that's actually hopeful. Step by step, we are taking. It's actually pitiable that we are big enough, but we are taking baby steps. But since Nigeria wants to take baby steps to get to where we are, I believe, and I am very, very sure, very, very optimistic that Nigeria will rise again.
Well, Nigeria would definitely rise again. And to add to what you said with respect to individuals being hopeful about what the country can become, I also think that there's actually a lot to be thankful for. If you look at issues of maybe racism, like today I was talking to a colleague of mine. She's currently not in the country, and she was just telling me, I want to come back home. I want to come back to Nigeria. I'm not really having that whole freedom of expression stuff. Because when you look at some of our values, they differ. Very much. Different values, different cultural systems. Imagine you are having a very peaceful conversation with your colleague at work, and maybe you say something that triggers issues around reproductive rights, issues gender issues, and those things are big issues. You can lose your job. You can even go to jail for certain things that we joke about here. You go mess around maybe in places like the UK, Ireland, maybe Canada, for example. You don't have that much freedom to be able to dictate what your culture and what your values are, but at least we still enjoy that here. But for me personally, I feel that, like you said, we need to stop taking those baby steps. We have to start taking those big steps, because if we want to really build a new country, then we must start by changing the value system. That whole value of people supporting politicians, not knowing that the politicians are the ones that actually owe us a duty. The citizen is the most important fragment of our society, and
that's the biggest office.
So that orientation has to start, and we need to start discussing as to how we can. I don't want to use the word take back our country, because it's actually our country. But at the same time, we need to rebuild this country to work for this generation, because if you look at our fathers, our grandfathers, their time is actually up. We are the ones that are within this Nigeria that we are finding now, and we have a duty to make that Nigeria work in our best interest.
If there's one thing I would want Nigerians to know, see, the Nigerian citizen is the most powerful office in this nation. Our politicians will get to hide it from us because they don't want us to know.
That's very true. Very, very
because
true.
Now get to imagine, why are they scrambling for your votes? Why are they changing your votes? They are changing your votes because they know only you have the power to take them there. So by the time we have realized and we get to inculcate this culture in everybody, people should stop saying their votes are not counting. Your votes are counting. No matter how it is changed, just know that your votes are counting. And one day will come when all of this will not happen again. So as Nigerians, we are the most powerful people.
The power resides in us, it resides in you, it resides in that mechanic in Ogun State, that farmer in Kano State, that businessman in maybe Anambra, for example. Across the country, powerful individuals, however small they seem, doing great things to add their own quota to the development of this country. And I feel that with that same mindset, no matter what happens, we must move away from thinking of how to pull this country down. Everybody has to play their own role in how to uplift this country, so that Nigeria can actually work in the interest of everyone. So I don't know what's your if you have any final thoughts,
Well, my final thoughts will always be, as a Nigerian, be proud of your country, no matter what. This is the only country we have to call ours. For us that have just one nation, some of you have dual citizenship, so good for you. But we only have Nigeria, and it's our duty to make Nigeria work, and Nigeria will work.
So thank you, everyone. Thank you for being part of this program. We hope to see you at the next episode of This is Nigeria. And if you are in doubt as to whether to have faith or have hope in this country, just know that you actually can't do without having hope and believing that one day in that very near future, not the future that our parents told us about and we're almost hitting the 30s and the 40s and all that, and it just appears that we've gone worse from where we actually started. But I feel that with this new generation of young people that we're actually having, people are demanding more for a better Nigeria, and we need to keep that demand up. We need to keep that demand up as we continue to demand for what is right for this country. I'm very confident, and I know that OJ is as well.
Yes, I am.
To just feel that feeling of we having a better country that works for everybody at the end of the day. Do have a very wonderful day, guys, and God bless you.